There, Merry Christmas from Porter, Texas. What I'd like to do today is teach you how to play Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer swing jazz style. First, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you just how people typically do it with only 4 simple chords, but then I'm going to show you how to use chord substitution, how to comp, and how to make the song sound like jazz. Don't let it scare you if you're not familiar with these chords. With just a little time and effort, you will be. The beautiful thing about it is, though, is once you get this song down, the other songs use the same chords. Yeah, you'll be surprised how many songs use these same chord progressions. I'm gonna break it. Not only that, as I'm showing you the chords, I'm going to tell you what's going on. I'm going to analyze what's going on, explain to you what we're doing, so it makes more sense to you. Okay, so let me just play the song, the jazz style, and show you what we're going to try to teach you to do. Here we go. I'm going to skip the intro, the one that introduces all the deer, you know, Prancer, Dancer, and all that business. Here we go. Well, Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer had a very shiny nose, and if you ever saw him, you would even say it glowed. All of the other reindeer used to laugh and call him names. They never let poor Rudolph play any reindeer game. Well, then one foggy Christmas Eve, Santa came to say, Rudolph, with your nose so bright, won't you guide my sleigh tonight? Then how the reindeer loved him as they shouted out with glee, Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer, you're down in history. There you go. Now, okay. So first of all, the song is in the key of G. So the first thing you need to do is learn the chords in the key of G. There's 7 basic chords in the key of G. So first I want to give you the chords. You should see them coming up about right now. The first one is G major 7. G major 7 is just an extension of G. In jazz and swing, they almost always use 7ths and 9ths. They don't use very many plain old majors and minors. So the first chord, we call this the 1 chord in the key of G. It's very important that you identify them as numbers. G major 7, the 1 chord. Now we have A minor 7th. That's your 2 chord. Then we have B minor 7. That's your 3 chord. Then we're going to go down here to the 3rd fret again, and we're going to do a C major 7 like this. That's your 4 chord. Then we're going to do D7 like this. That's your 5 chord. Then we're going to do E minor 7th up here. Excuse me. That's your 6th chord. And then I'm going to show you the F sharp half diminished, the 7 chord. But we're not going to use that in the song, so you don't worry about it. Matter of fact, I don't think we even use E minor. But anyway, that's the 7 chord. So it would behoove you, it'd be very... things would make a lot more sense if you just kind of go over these chords first. G major 7, A minor 7, B minor 7, C major 7, D7, E minor 7, F sharp half diminished 7, and then back to G major 7. Okay, now, so Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer normally just has 4 chords. It's what we call a 1-4-5 chord progression, which would be just simply a G like this, a C like this, and then a D7 like that. So 99 out of 100 people will play it like this. I'm going to play the 1-4-5 progression, and it's got a dominance. It's got a 2 chord in there also. So here you watch this. Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer, that's G, had a very shiny nose, D7, and if you ever saw it, you would even say it glowed like a G. All of the other reindeer used to laugh and call him name D7. They never let poor Rudolph play in any reindeer games. Then they go to the 4 chord, then come back to the 1 chord, 5, back to the 1. Then they go to the 2 chord, but it'll be like an A or an A7. Rudolph, with your nose so bright, D7. You guide my sleigh tonight, and more of the same after that. Okay, so that's the basic way of doing it. It's just a 1, 4, 5, and it has that A7 in there too, which is the 2 chord. Okay. Now, okay, so let's talk about the 1 chord. Now the 1 chord is G. That's the basic G. But in jazz, like I said, they hardly ever hit just a G. What we're going to do is we're going to play a different chord every 2 beats. In jazz, they call that comping, as in accompanying someone. So it's a lot more interesting. You play a different chord every 2 beats. So whenever you think of the 1 chord, G, I want you to stop thinking of it as just a G. In jazz, even if you see a piece of sheet music that says G, you always have G, and you also have G major 7 and G6. Now, if you haven't played those chords, you're going to struggle with them at the beginning, but believe me, you'll get them if you stick with it. Just go G, G major 7, G6. So, for the 1 chord, the very first part of the sing, instead of going, Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer had a very shiny. So, we just had several measures of just G. Now, what's what I want to do? I want to go G, 1, 2, 3, 4. Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer had a very... So you see what I did? I went, instead of going just G, I went G, G major 7, G6, back to G major 7, then G. Okay, so that gets us up there. Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer had a very... I'm stopping there. I'll explain to you why in a minute. Okay, so that's the first progression. That's the 1 chord. There's really 3 chords, but it's the 1 chord. I want you to think of it as the 1 chord, which is G, G major 7, G6. Those chords, they interchange with each other. Okay. The most obvious chord that you're going to go to besides the 1 chord is the 5 chord. In the key of G, remember I said a while ago, you have G is your 1, A minor is your 2, B minor is your 3, C major 7 is your 4, and D7 is your 5. So, and the easy version was Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer had a very shiny 5 chord slate. Okay, now, to make it jazzy sounding, instead of just strumming D7, always remember when you have the 5 chord, like in D7 in the key of G, you can always put the 2 chord in front of it. Remember the 2 chord was A minor 7. That one right there. So what you want to do instead of going, you're going to go 2, 5, 2, 5, 2, 5. So now we have, instead of just 1 chord, in the 1 chord, instead of just having 1 chord, we have 3 chords. The 5 chord, instead of just having 1 chord, we have 2 chords. So watch me now. Now watch what I'm going to do. Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer had a very shiny nose, and if you ever saw him, you would even see it glow. Okay. Now, I left out a chord because I didn't want to confuse matters. We're gonna now what we're gonna do. So notice I go from a 1 chord to the 2 chord, right? Well, there's a note in between there. I'm going to use what's called a passing chord. The passing chord from the 1 to the 2 is usually the diminished 7th chord. Now, so watch this. G. Now here's a new chord. G sharp diminished 7th. People struggle with that chord, and you probably will too if you haven't seen it before. But let me say something about diminished chords. If you understand diminished chords, it brings you to the next level. You become one of the elite, if you want to use that word, or whatever word you want to use. It makes your playing on another level if you understand how to use diminished chords. So I'm just going to talk about one, but that's I did a bunch of studies on the diminished chord. If you text me, I'll send you a link to that. But or send me a comment, I'll send it what I meant to say. Okay. So watch this. I'm gonna do that the 1 chord, which is really 3 chords, and then I'm gonna walk up to the 5 chord, which is really 2 chords. I hope that's not confusing. Okay, here we go. Watch this. Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer had a right here. G sharp diminished. That brings me up to the 2 chord. Shiny nose, and if you ever saw him, you would even. Okay, so you see what I did? 1 chord, 1 1 chord, passing diminished 5 chord. Okay, now, when you do that 2-5, and it walks back down to the 1, but when I go back down to the 1, I know this is kind of odd, but I don't want to hit the diminished 7. To me, it doesn't sound right. Watch this. That diminished 7 doesn't sound so good going down, or descending, I should say. What we do there is we're going to do the D7 flat 5, which is very similar. Watch here. Here's a D7, right? I've already done that. D7. I'm going to change the bass note. See that note right there? I'm going to bring it to the 6th string. That's the 5th note of the scale. So that would be called a D7 with a 5 in the bass. But watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to do D7. I'm going to do a flat 5 in the bass. Okay? So when I walk down from the 2 chord, I go to the D7 flat 5, and that brings me back to the 1. Okay, so now we've got most of the song. So once you put that together, the 1 chord. Well, Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer had a very passing 5 chord. And if you ever saw him, you would be D7 flat 5 1. Then again, the reindeer used to laugh and call him names. They never left for Rudolph playing any reindeer game. Okay, now that gets us most of it. So now we go to the next part. The next part, normally what they do is they go to the 4 chord, then 1 foggy, back to the 1, Christmas Eve, the 5, Santa came to say. That's the normal way. That's a 1-4-5. 4 chord, 1 5. Instead of going 4 back to the 1, we're going to go to the 4 and we're going to walk down. We're going to walk down to the 1. Watch this. 4 chord, 3 chord, 2 chord, 5 chord 1. See what I did? Instead of going then 1 foggy Christmas Eve, Santa came. So what I really did is I substituted the 3 chord and the 2 chord for just the 4 back to 1. See what's 4 chord, 3 chord, 2, 5, 1. Okay. Now we're almost there. We've got one more thing. Now watch what happens. I'm on G. Now watch what happens. I'm going to slide up but instead of I'm going to go to the 2 chord, but I'm not going to use minor 7th this time. I'm going to use a dominant 7th. Now, if you recall, we had a D7th, right? That's what's known as a D7th. Whenever you change your 2 chord to a 7th, a dominant 7th, they call that the secondary dominant. It's called the secondary dominant because D7th is your primary dominant. It's the only one that's a dominant 7th out of the 7 chords we learned earlier in the beginning. But when you change A7 to a dominant 7th, we call that the secondary dominant. Rudolph, with your nose so bright, won't you guide my sleigh tonight? Okay, now, but I like to do like this classic walk up. Watch what we're going to do. We're on G. Okay, so I'm going to back up a little bit. Then one foggy Christmas Eve, Santa came to say. Watch what I'm going to do. A classic walk. You hear this in country and jazz. I'm going to change to G7, G flat 7, G7, A flat 7, and there's your A7. Rudolph with your nose so right. Okay? So I went like this. Same thing. But remember I told you we're always going to do 2 chords per beat? I mean, we're going to do a chord every 2 beats is what I meant to say. I'm confusing myself. So watch, instead of going G A7, I need another chord so I can have a different chord every 2 beats. I'm just simply going to extend the dominant 7th to a 9. This is your A9. That's another one of those chords you need to learn. Let's look at it. Here's A7, A9, A7, A9. One foggy Christmas Eve, Santa came to say, Rudolph with your nose so bright. D7, won't you guide my... Now, one more chord. Remember I told you for the D7 we can also go to 2-5. Something else you can do for the 5. Instead of doing a D7, you can do the D augmented. here, okay? That substitutes for the D7. You can do either or. You can use those together, or you can use either or. So watch this. Now watch me put all that together. When one foggy Christmas Eve, Santa came to say, Rudolph, with your nose so bright, won't you guide my soul tonight? Okay, then we're back to the verse. Then how the reindeer loved him as they shouted out with glee, Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer, you'll go down in history. There it is. Okay, now we're going to finish up by just me playing through the song slowly. I'm even going to play the intro. The intro is nothing new. In fact, it just goes 4 chord, 3 chord, E minor 7, 2 chord, and then the 1. But it has an open E minor, B7, and then it has an A7, D7. Something that's funny, I can memorize the chords to a song just like that, but I have the hardest time remembering the names of these deer, so I'm going to look down and remember the name of the deer in order. Okay, here we go. C major 7, you know, Dasher. B minor 7, Dancer. A minor 7, Prancer. And G, Vixen. Back to C major 7, Comet, Cupid. B minor 7, A minor 7. Dancer and Blitzen. Then just an open E minor. Or do you recall B7? A7, the most famous reindeer of all. D7, the augmented. So here we go with the song. Well, Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer had a very shiny nose, and if you ever saw it, you would even say it glows. All of the other reindeer used to laugh and call him names. They never let poor Rudolph play in any reindeer game. But then one foggy Christmas Eve, Santa came to say, Rudolph, with your nose so bright, won't you guide my sleigh tonight? Then how the reindeer loved him as they shouted out with glee, Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer, you'll go down in history. One last time, at a quick tempo. You know, 1 chord, 3 chord, 2 chord, 1. 4 chord, 3 chord, 2 chord, 1. E minor, or do you recall B7? The famous D7 to D7 augmented. Here we go. Well, Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer had a very shiny nose, and if you ever saw him, you would even say it glowed. All of the other reindeer used to laugh and call him names. They never let poor Rudolph play in any reindeer game. And one foggy Christmas Eve, Santa came to say, Rudolph, with your nose so bright, won't you guide my sleigh tonight? Then how the reindeer loved him as they shouted out with glee, Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer, you go down in history. There you go. Hope you enjoy. At the end of this, you'll see a link to my other Christmas songs if you want to visit that. And also, in the description below, you'll find a link, a chord chart with the words if you want to print out a PDF for it. And Merry Christmas.